Is Costa Rica really eco-friendly? Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. My name's Mike and I make videos about my life here in Costa Rica. If you're new to the channel, be sure to hit the subscribe button. Make sure you stay up to date with all the new videos. I'm going to be traveling all around the country this year, making videos, so if you're interested in Costa Rica or what life is like here, be sure to subscribe. You're not going to want to miss it. So, when you think about Costa Rica, you might think about like beautiful waterfalls in the jungle, or maybe you'll think about like a pristine beach with just crystal blue waters and white sand. Or maybe you've seen a couple headlines like this one right here. So, are all these things true? Or is it more just some clever marketing on the part of Costa Rica? That's the question I'm trying to answer in this video. I've been living in Guanacaste, Costa Rica for over a year now, and coming in, I thought, man, Costa Rica is the greenest country. It's so environmentally friendly, just gonna be pristine and beautiful. But after living here for a year, I've seen a few things that have kind of started to change my perspective on this a little bit. So that's what I'm gonna talk to you guys about today. So first, let's talk about the good things that Costa Rica is doing for the environment. The first and probably most recognizable thing is the way that they generate electricity here in this country, the way they generate power. So Costa Rica has generated over 98% of its energy from renewable resources over the past 5 years. So that's an amazing stat if you think about it. Most of this energy is coming from hydropower, so water flowing through dams, and the next two biggest are wind power and geothermal energy. But the vast majority comes from the hydropower. Now, this is an amazing amount, 98%, almost all of the energy in the country, especially when you compare it against the USA, which only generates 11% of its energy from renewable resources. Now, it's a little easier for Costa Rica to do this because of the fact that they use so much less energy than a country like the USA uses. If you look at this chart right here, you'll see that the average person from the USA uses a little under 13,000 kilowatt hours of energy per year, while an average Costa Rican uses just under 2,000. So an American on average uses about 6 times more energy per year than a Tico. So why is this possible? Firstly, it's because in Costa Rica, people never have to heat their home because it never gets cold. And if you live in the Central Valley where the majority of people live, you never have to use air conditioning either. So this is what takes up most of home energy use, is cooling and heating your home. And here in Costa Rica, you just don't have to do that at all. Also, most people here don't have a dryer for their clothes and they don't have hot water heaters. So because of this, an average Tico will just use a lot less electricity on average than someone in the USA. The second thing that Costa Rica does so well when it comes to environmental protection is preserving its land and natural resources. Costa Rica has 29 national parks, which in whole cover about 25% of all the land area in the entire country. So that's a huge number. A quarter of all the land in Costa Rica is protected land, which is really amazing. And this is more than any other country in the whole world. This helps to protect the amazing biodiversity that exists here in Costa Rica. So Costa Rica is really small. It's only about the size of West Virginia in the United States. It takes up 0.03% of all the landmass on Earth, but it has over 4% of all the species of plant and animals on Earth. So that's a crazy statistic for a country that's so small to have such a disproportionate amount of biodiversity. It's really incredible. So those are a couple of the good things, the way Costa Rica produces energy and the way that they protect their land and natural resources is really incredible. And I would say probably they are the best in the world at doing stuff like that. Now, there are a few places where they have some shortcomings and maybe they fall behind other countries like the US in being eco-friendly and protecting the environment. The first one that I want to talk about today is the transportation sector. So Costa Rica kind of has an outdated transportation sector. There's no railway connecting the country. So the only really way to get across the country is either by car or by plane. Also in Costa Rica, there's hardly any hybrid or electric vehicles. Those just haven't really caught on in this country yet, and they're very expensive to get here because they all have to be imported. Also, a lot of the cars here still run on diesel. So in Costa Rica, it's really common to see diesel trucks and cars, and maybe some of that's because diesel fuel here is actually cheaper than regular gasoline. So a lot of people drive diesel, which the emissions from a diesel car is much worse for air pollution than a regular gas car. So Costa Rica is trying to change this. They're offering incentives, tax breaks to have and own an electric vehicle. Also, if you're an expat and you want to import an electric or hybrid vehicle from the USA, you can get out of paying the import tax, which is a big deal because usually you can pay up to 80% of the car's value to import it. But if you bring a Tesla or maybe a Prius, you can get out of that tax completely. So they are slowly trying to make changes in this area and try and make a more green transportation sector. So the next thing I want to talk about is Costa Rica's waste disposal system. This also kind of lags behind what we see in the US. First thing, in my area of Guanacaste, I always see a lot of litter. A lot of people just throw their trash on the streets. It's pretty common to see. Next, a lot of people actually also burn their trash. So if the trash truck isn't gonna come soon enough, or maybe it's inconvenient to drop your trash off somewhere, people will just light it on fire and just burn it, which releases a lot of toxic chemicals into the air. But if you're like in a high point up on a mountain, you can look around and every day you'll see you'll see smoke from different fires burning around the town. So the third thing is Costa Rica doesn't, at least in my part of Costa Rica, there's not a good widespread recycling program. They do reuse a lot of glass bottles. Like if you get glass, you can bring it back to the store where you bought it and have that reused. But like single-use plastics, for example, most people aren't gonna recycle those. It is possible, but like a recycling truck isn't gonna come to your house and pick that up. So it kind of puts the burden on the consumer if they wanna recycle. Like we have to drive ours all the way to a place that recycles them. So the third and last thing where Costa Rica kind of falls behind is pesticide use. Now this really shocked me because when I thought of Costa Rica before moving here, you think of, tropical fruits, nice vegetables and mangoes and pineapples and all this. But in reality, Costa Rica uses more pesticides to grow crops than any other country in the entire world. So Costa Rica uses 18.2 kilograms of pesticide per hectare, where in the USA, we use about 2.5. So almost 8 or 9 times as much pesticide use in Costa Rica as there is in a country like the USA. Some of these pesticides are also really dangerous. They might be using pesticides that have been banned in other countries. There's also a lot of cases of pesticide poisoning where people, like farmers, can fall very ill or even die from overexposure to these pesticides. So overall, I think Costa Rica is a really eco-friendly place. I think the government of Costa Rica definitely cares about the environment a lot more than the government of the USA, for example. The current president of Costa Rica has a plan to try and get this country totally carbon neutral by the year 2050. So he wants to totally have zero carbon emissions by 2050. He wants Costa Rica to serve as like a global example for other countries. And as far as I know, this is the only country in the world that has laid out a concrete plan to achieve this. But as far as like your everyday average person in day-to-day life, I mean, it all just depends on the person. Similar to like in the States, some people are really gonna care about recycling and, eating a eco-friendly diet and conserving energy, just doing little things to help, while others probably won't be as concerned. It just varies from person to person. I think being a poor country like Costa Rica is, it can be hard for some people to prioritize caring for the environment. But In my area where I live, a lot of people put a lot of importance on cleaning up the beach. There's a thing here called the bandera azul, or the blue flag. So if you have like a nice clean beach, the government will issue you the blue flag. It's kind of just a recognition that, you know, this beach is clean and they follow like good practices when it comes to keeping it a nice and clean place. So there you have it, guys. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. What's the number one thing you do to be eco-friendly? As always, thank you guys for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe for more Costa Rica videos, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Pura vida.